Hello and welcome to the Grumpy Sound Guy YouTube channel. This week we are going to dive into a conversation about in-ear monitors. That is a super hot button subject that I get a whole ton of questions on every single week. We're going to talk about splitters, snake splits. We're going to talk about brands, the benefits, why you should even consider going in-ear monitors. How to be self-contained with your own mixer and that sort of thing. And then we'll even talk about the importance of really good earbuds, and that sort of thing. But before we dive into all that, I keep saying this in every video, I'm going to keep hounding you guys until you smash that subscribe button. 80% of you watching this right now has not hit the subscribe button. And I'm talking to you, Texas, because it seems like the biggest group of followers that I have here is from Texas. And by the way, I'm a big fan of Texas. I love Texas, been to Dallas and Fort Worth area and just had an amazing time there. So yeah, by all means, please hit that subscribe button. It costs nothing to hit that button, and support this channel and help me to continue to roll out this this content for free on this format. I am going to make an announcement at the end of the video. In fact, let me make a note about that. So I don't forget that. You are going to want to stick around and hear that announcement because it's going to be super, super huge, and it's going to solve a whole bunch of problems in my world, and it's going to give you guys the ability to dig deeper into the world of the Grumpy Sound Guy and all the services and the things that I bring to the table. So stick around to the end of the video. We're only going to go 15 or 20 minutes here today. It's not going to be super crazy long, and I promise you the conversation will be interesting enough to hold your attention that long. So let's dive into the subject here. In-ear monitors, benefits. Why should I go in-ear monitors? JR, tell me that. My band's happy with wedges. We're addicted to wedges. I can't tell you how many times I've actually seen those words inside of an advanced email where the band was saying they're addicted to wedges. Man, the problem with wedges in today's world is because people aren't supporting live music as they used to. Really, they're not supporting any kind of public thing like that. Big pro touring stuff is doing okay. They're not killing by any stretch of the imagination. I would venture to say that stand-up comedians are probably making as much or more than most of the bands that are on the road these days. Ticket prices are absolutely outrageous. We can do a whole other video on this, but I'm just going to touch on it real quick. Ticket prices are so outrageous that a lot of just common blue collar people, man, are just hitting the pass button on that. They're just not going out there and doing that. With that being said, and I mean, churches are closing down every day because of it. And I don't think it has anything to do with Jesus. I think it has to do with the fact that people just won't get off their rear end, put their phone down, and go be part of society. They would rather sit at home on their couch, staring at their phone, or binge watching Netflix. So every sort of entertainment-based or large group gathering-based kind of events are struggling. It seems like the wineries and the breweries are doing fairly well. It's really because they figured out how you can bring your kids to a drinking venue. I have all my own concerns about that. If you're a responsible parent, hey man, more power to you. I'm not judging you. But I, with my own eyes, have seen parents come in and model alcoholism to their kids. We're talking 6 to 10-year-old kids in a drinking establishment, drink until they're buzzed, and then put them kids in the car and drive them home buzzed. And that is not cool in my world. I am an advocate for, drunk driving. I don't like drunk driving, and I know people. I've got personal friends of mine have died because of drunk driving, so that concerns me. But nevertheless, people just got to be responsible people that way. So the benefits of in-ear monitors really is you're getting an enormous amount of protection, with your monitor set up that way. You can get earbuds that are vented, so you can still hear people talking and stuff like that. Most people who go with those buds tend to not be super happy with the performance of that, because honestly, the trick to getting buds to sound the way you want them to sound is to get them to seal in your ears. And when you have both sides sealed with custom molded buds, we'll talk in depth about this later in the video. But that's where the money's at, man. That's where you're going to get the sound that you've been looking for that way. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get that low end response, especially bass players and drummers. You're going to get that low end response by having them sealed. You see people on the Grammys and on TV all the time, they'll pull one bud out because they just want to hear some of the room or hear some of that stage volume or whatever. The problem with that is you have to push the remaining bud another 6 dB to be able to hear yourself as well as what you did when you had both buds in. So I never ever recommend anyone pulling one bud out and rolling that way, because it's real easy to destroy an eardrum. And I know guys that have blown ears out that way. I used to play drums that way. I used to play drums with one bud in and one bud out. My left ear is the worst of both my ears because I have hearing loss from being in this business for 35 years. But I kind of felt like, well, that ear's already hurt anyways, but it still wasn't doing me any favors, and it wasn't long before I just put both buds in and just, made it work that way, and was definitely much happier with that. So you get some protection from the stage volume, especially if you're a singer trying to get away from the drums and that sort of thing. It's super huge. It's super huge in that aspect. Plus you have your own individual mix right inside your head. I know a lot of lead singers that only have their vocal and a teeny tiny bit of keyboard or a teeny tiny bit of guitar, whichever the case may be, or both if they have both in their band. So they have a little bit of melodic reference to stay in key and stuff like that when they're singing. Other than that, there's nothing else in their mix. And that is a godsend, especially for a soft-spoken singer who really is struggling to, hear themselves over the drums, which in many cases, like we talked about last week in some of these smaller rooms, the lead singer may only be, 6 feet away from the drums, if that. Sometimes they're standing right in front of the drums. In fact, they'll complain that when they walk away from their mic and they leave it center stage, like say a guitar solo or something that's going on, they'll get all that drum bleed in their mic and it's crushing them in their ears. And they're like, man, do you have any drums in my mix? And I'm like, no, man, it's just all coming through your vocal mic. Because if you're a soft singer, you can guarantee that I am banging the daylights out of that gain to get you where I want you out front, because I'm always going to keep your vocal above the rest of the band. It should be vocals, kick, snare, typically is the way it goes. And then the other melodic instruments around that, you fill out the mix with guitar and keyboards melodically, and then fill out the rest of the bottom end with the bass guitar and kick drum. But so those are the benefits, man. Plus, if you set yourself up as an all-inclusive kind of monitor mix where you're using your own digital mixer, so everyone has control over their own mix on stage through their cell phone or a tablet, you get the same mix every single gig, You just really, really do. And that, is super huge in being consistent as a band. So then, even if you have a mediocre sound guy, like I know some of these house sound guys aren't all that, okay? I know some of them that really are. I know some of them that are like bad to the bone. But I know a whole lot more that are just very subpar as far as their skill set as sound engineers. When you take wedge monitors out of the equation, and really the monitors altogether, if you're mixing your own ear system, they're not mixing any of your monitors, you're just giving them a tail off your split snake, then all he has to do is front of house. Even a kid right out of college is going to probably do pretty good in that environment with only having to worry about front of house. That makes his job a whole lot easier, which means your band's going to sound a whole lot better in that room. So there's another benefit to being all in-ear monitors is, taking that off the plate of your house sound guy and just giving him, the liberty to be able to do front of house to the best of his ability for that room. That alone to me is worth its weight in gold, Different brands. I want to talk about brands for a second. There's a lot of Chinese companies that have stopped cloning other people's stuff. I mean, there's still Chinese companies out there cloning Shure and Sennheiser and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's not happening, but what I'm seeing here recently is companies like Phoenix Pro, Xive, some of these Chinese companies are just coming and selling RF, stuff, wireless stuff, whether it's in-ear monitors, microphones, stuff like that, just under that brand name, so they don't have to worry about any of the copyright infringement or, counterfeiting laws that are in place. So they're just fighting hard to get America's, business that way. Listen, if that's all you can afford, okay, I get it. I am still a proponent for the stuff that I know that's going to work. I am still going to always choose Shure or Sennheiser or Audix or, companies that are reputable brands before I choose any of that other stuff. Now you may say, yeah, but JR, man, the stuff is so expensive. I can't drop $1,000 in a wireless in-ear monitor rig. Well, if you're a lead singer, I would say you really need to drop $1,000 in that, because what the hell else have you bought? A mic stand and a microphone, a wireless system, and you're standing on stage with guys that are many times showing up with, 10 grand worth of guitars and, amps and processors and stuff like that. Invest in your craft, man, really. I mean, let's just get real about that. Invest in your craft. And you should, by all means, have your own legit. I really like the Sennheiser, wireless in-ear monitor systems. And the reason I say that, I think they're EW, I'm not going to get this wrong because I can never remember Sennheiser's model numbers. EW100s or G4s. I guess that's generation 4 now. We might be up to G5 for all I know. They're about $1,000. They're like $800 to $1,000. They might be up to 11 with, the inflation the way it is right now. But I have seen those systems go through literal hell on the road. I mean, hell. And people are still using them. I know one chick that's a singer for a band that dropped her belt pack in the toilet 4 different times. I can remember being in hotel rooms, pulling that thing apart and putting a fan on it overnight to dry it out, and it worked the next day. She's still using it to this day. That's been almost 10 years ago when all that stuff happened. She's still using that. It's a G3 system. That's how old that system is. And still works fine, not getting any issues, that sort of thing. So they're just absolute workhorses. The middle of the road Shure stuff is okay. I think they're in the neighborhood of $600 or $800, something like that. They're a little less expensive. But for some reason, some of those systems don't even have XLR outs on them. So then you got to carry around a 1/4 inch to XLR adapter everywhere you go. Now, that might not be a big deal to you. You just throw it in the gig bag with the rest of the system, and it's just part of your gear. Hey, man, I'm cool with that. I got no problem with that. You do you, boo. You do what you got to do. But I'm noticing a lot more people that are kind of cheesing out, and they're buying some of these Chinese brands, and they are just barely happy with them. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a couple people blow me up in the comments section that they own that stuff and have never had a minute's problem out of them. Hey, man, I'm happy for you. Even a blind squirrel can find a nut every now and then, But the overwhelming people that I know, especially the Phoenix Pro, line, they're cutting in and out all the time. They're constantly struggling to get a clean frequency. The Xive stuff, it's operating on 2.4 gigahertz, which is every cell phone, tablet, and Wi-Fi network in every club that you're in. So unless they have that thing right at their feet, or something like that, they're having problems with that, and they're still even less than happy with it. Let me just put it that way. So you get what you pay for with that stuff. There's also some really low budget wired stuff that you can use. Rolls has a little in-ear square box thing that is got a ton of mic gain. I know guys that are using that drummers and bass players that maybe drummers obviously are sitting in one place all night. Some bass players don't move around. Some bass players that are playing in bigger bands stand next to the hi-hat all night and they never move. So they can be on a wired system. Now you're talking about, $50 to $100 to get into an ear system if you're one of those kind of people. The Behringer P1 and P2. P1 I think is the mono version. P2 is the stereo version. Either one of those will work. My only complaint about those is you got to kind of pound them with gain pretty hard to get the level where you want it in your ears, to where the Rolls has a lot more mic gain or more amp gain, preamp gain built into the system. I'm sure there's other guys that are out there doing that wired stuff. I know some drummers that are running tracks and click tracks and stuff like that on a little mixer next to them will take a mix from their ear rig into that mixer, and they'll just use the headphone out on their little, $99 mixer, little Yamaha thing or something or whatever. So those are different ways to get into that. Split snakes is next. Please, for the love of God, don't buy a seismic audio split snake. They're cheap, and they're cheap for a reason. The connectors that they use in those things they're Chinese built. All that seismic audio stuff is Chinese built. They put their name on it. They import it to Tennessee, and they're selling the stuff out of Tennessee like it's American made. They're not saying it's American made, but they kind of they imply that they're an American company, blah, blah, blah. That sort of thing. It's Chinese, dude. And I got one guy who hit me up the last time I talked about this and said he's got a seismic splitter he's been using for, 6 or 8 years or something, has never had a minute's problem out of it. Again, a blind squirrel can find a nut, every now and then. But I have an overwhelming amount of people that I could give you names and phone numbers to who have had nothing but problems out of those things. They lose channels within the first 6 months of usage. I know one band that finally broke down and bought like a 24 or 32 channel seismic splitter, and they're only a 16 channel band. They're like, man, as the channels are going down, we're just moving channels down the splitter, and we're trying to get 4 or 5 years out of the splitter. I know guys that's tore them apart and tried to reinforce the solder connections. The connectors are literally so cheap. As soon as you heat up the connectors, they want to melt out of the little plastic surround that they're in. Man, just don't, okay? Just don't. Like a little piece of me dies every time I got to mix a band through a seismic audio splitter, because it just makes your band sound so thin, and you got to pound the mic gain and everything to get anything where you want it. And then it's mid-range and harsh. It's just not a good product, man. It's not a good product. Again, you get what you pay for. And if you're into this, and you're really wanting to do this on a professional level, write the check, man. Buy a CBI splitter. And I got guys say, what's the difference between a CBI and a seismic? Well, a CBI has all Nutrix connectors on them, so the connectors themselves are built for murder. They're built much. It's like the difference between the X32 and the M32. Really, the biggest difference is the hardware. The M32 has Nutrix connectors in it. And I know guys with S32 stage boxes, Behringer stage boxes for the X32 that got XLRs stuck in the stage boxes because the lock broke and you can't get the XLR out of it. You don't have that problem with the M32, the DL32 stage box that goes with the M32, because they're Nutrix connectors. Man, you get what you pay for. CBI, I like. If you can afford Whirlwind is great, so think about that. Again, you kind of get what you pay for. Mixers, as far as having a rack mixer, the most popular rack mixer that I see, well, there's 2 of them. One's probably just as popular as the other, if I'm being honest. I lean more toward the Soundcraft UI because I just like that format. It's not the most user-friendly thing in the world, but at the same time, the effects in it are ridiculous. And I mean, you can get into a 16 channel, which is, I think, actually 12 inputs. It's weird the way they do it. They count the USB and the RCA inputs as inputs, which they technically are. But I mean, you can even buy a 24 channel for about $800 or $900, open box special from Pro Audio Star out of Brooklyn. I've bought 2 or 3 of them that way. I bought 2 or 3 for clients that I put ear rigs together for. And they just get it done, man. You can hook a router up to it. It has a little 2.4 router built into it. But unless you're standing right over top of it, it can be a little problematic. But I always put an external router on it and a dual band router, get on 5G, and then you'll have some nice, clean, connection there with that thing. And in a pinch, that thing can work as both, monitors and front of house, because you can connect, various devices to it at the same time. The XR18 is probably the other one that I see. I'm not as big a fan of that because I've seen a couple of them fail, and I just kind of think the features are kind of lame. The effects aren't all that good. The compressors are not all that good. The EQs are okay. And I just think for a couple $100 more, man, the UI just smokes that thing. So I know a bunch of A-rated bands that are either using the UI or they're using the X32 rack. Like if you want to go up to that $1,400-$1,500 price point, the UI rack will the X32 rack will definitely get you in that ballpark. 16 XLR inputs, and now you got the power of an X32 brain there. So that is a lot of features for an in-ear rig. As far as earbuds are concerned, I have traditionally been a big Alien Ear supporter, but here recently, the last couple people I recommended Alien Ears to had some pretty significant complaints about customer service. Alien Ears do not pay me to endorse their products. I just know some guys that's had their stuff for years, and it's been pretty bulletproof. They send you a at-home, do-it-yourself mold kit that your girlfriend can kind of squirt the stuff in your ears to make your custom molded stuff. You don't have to go to an audiologist and spend another $100 or $150 to get ear molds made. That's kind of convenient. That saves you a bit of money, and they're very competitive price-wise. Maybe they're so busy that customer service is just kind of stressed out or whatever. I don't know, but I know they make a decent product. The earbud brand I probably see the most is Ultimate Ears. I don't see as many Westtones as I used to. Westtones used to be like the Cadillac of in-ear monitors, and maybe they still are, I don't know. But I see a lot of guys with Ultimate Ears, and I know there's some other companies out there that I'm not mentioning that it may be just as reputable, I'm just not familiar with. If you're listening and you're one of those companies, you want to send me your buds and have me do an open box review of that and like a 2-week follow-up, I'll gladly do that and send them back to you, whatever you want to do. And try to help you out that way, because I get asked these things all the time, and I don't have any loyalty to any certain brand. No one's paying me anything to do any of this stuff. I'm just giving you information that came from my personal experience. So that kind of concludes our inner monitor section of this. I want to make a quick announcement, and then I'm going to let you guys go. We're already a couple minutes over the 20-minute mark. We are getting ready to my marketing company and my business advisor has really been working hard with me to get a new website up, clpaudio.com. We're getting ready to drop that probably in the next 4 to 5 days or so. On the website, there are going to be some services offered. One of those is going to be consulting services. We're going to have a section for corporate entities like churches or nightclubs that really don't have the budget to bring on a full-time guy, but for a reasonable monthly subscription fee, you can get somebody like me on your staff to come in once or twice a month and kind of maintain your systems, train your people correctly, and make the most out of what you have in-house. And then on the other side of it, we're going to have more of a cover band musician level, set of consultation packages that's going to include some behind the scenes material. I am going to be this winter working on just pouring out a bunch of content, a bunch of behind the scenes videos, a bunch of specific videos that will not be posted on the public YouTube channel, and things like that about marketing, about band development, I'm going to give you, if you become a certain tier subscriber, you're even going to get inside information about like where I buy gear. I'll actually purchase gear for you and get you the best deals we can get you. Depending on what tier subscription you sign up for, you'll get heavy discounts on hiring CLP audio for your gigs and things like that. I'll be offering services where I actually come out to your band rehearsal or to your gig, create a start scene in your digital mixer, and kind of get you on the right track that way. There's just some really super cool, exciting stuff. One big thing that I know is going to be super popular is bump proof booking. You know, we are going to offer some packages that if you step up to that level, the gigs that you put on the calendar with me will be in concrete. There'll be no bumping those gigs, because currently the way my schedule stands, especially during the summer months, is if we're booked for an $800 club gig and a $10,000 festival comes along, I don't really have much choice but to bump you, and throw you to one of my networked, companies that I work hand in hand with. I always try to get you covered. I don't leave you hanging, and these bumps usually happen a couple months before the gig. It's never like the week of or the week before or something like that. So there's always plenty of time to get you covered. But that's just the nature of the business. I have to go where the money's at. Well, if you are of a certain subscription tier, you will have the ability to get bump-proof bookings with CLP Audio to where your gigs will be in concrete and nothing will ever bump them out of the way. So I know that's going to be popular. We're still in the infant stages of developing that. We're hoping to have the consultation packages rolled out and the subscription stuff set up by the end of October. We are in the first week of October right now. And I already got a bunch of guys blowing me up that are just super excited about this. So you can basically bring someone like me, an expert, into the fold of your cover band for a reasonable monthly subscription, and have me come out, critique your band once every 6 weeks, have me come to a rehearsal, help you put an ear rig together like we've been talking about today. All the services that I offer will be offered to you because you're a subscriber and a regular supporter of the Grumpy Sound Guy at a big discount. You guys are going to really, really dig this. So make sure you stay tuned and stay plugged into the website, because that's where all this stuff's going to roll out at. I'll be doing shorts and reels on this as well. Thank you guys for your support. We've gotten just crazy support. Again, hit the subscription button, like, share, hit the notification bell, all the stuff. Do all the things, okay? That way we can kind of keep this thing moving forward, and we can help you make the world a better place, one mix at a time, one gig at a time. See you guys.